look at this. I'm carrying my papers around in this, and it's really so, I mean, because the cardboard long ago died inside. And this belonged to Norina Machiavelli. And so that's why I carry it, but I think, you know, maybe I should get one that actually works. I mean, but you know, how to give it up, right? I mean, Norina had this we think she had it with her she'd take her notes to give lectures in New York, you know, at Carnegie Hall and such. So she had this, and then in India, where she had her articles for the journal, and so we think this is what she, and some of her papers were in her trunk, you know, when we uncovered it, and so this has just been, you know, the history of her life with Baba, right? 30s, 40s, you know. So I can't give it up. It has this monogram on the front that she was fond of, you know, the kind of crown Machiavelli symbol, yeah. Anyway, you can see it's much used. So anyway, it's not utilitarian. But it's wonderful to be here in person. I mean, it's so fantastic, and to see so many old friends. When I arrived there, someone reminded me that I recently told Andy Lesnick's joke. And I thought, oh yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to tell it again because it is pretty wonderful. So Andy, I think he got it from Bob Gantz actually. You know, that there are 3 stages in life. You know, you reminded me of this when I arrived, didn't you? You know, and 3 stages in life: youth, middle age, and you're looking good. I'm in the you're looking good stage. Yeah, you'll get it more and more. And you know, the wonderful part is that I noticed this recently after Andy told me that joke. I went into a store in Washington, and the clerk came up to me and said, "How can I help you, young man? You know you've arrived." Or the security guard at one of the buildings. I was leaving. He says, "Now you be careful out there, young man." I know they're trying to be kind, but I felt like turning around and saying, "I'm fine, thank you very much. And I'm not young." But no, you get to this, not young, yeah. We'll get young again, won't we? Sooner than later. But you know, it really is a blessing, I think, I actually feel this, no kidding, that it's a blessing to grow older with Baba because, you know, you can add years to how many years you've known Baba, right? And so it sounds more and more impressive. Yeah, 60 years ago, something, you know, I mean, that sounds really, you know, pretty substantial, doesn't it? So, yeah, 60, 65, whatever. I think it's 65 now for me, years ago when I met Baba. So, you know, I like that. But I remembered, thinking about that, I remembered that when I was growing up around Elizabeth and Kitty, which of course was the greatest thing about my childhood, when somebody would come to the center in those days, this was like the 60s, right? Somebody would come to the center who had been with Baba a long time, they would refer to that person coming as an old-timer is coming, right? An old-timer is coming. And that was, so that resonates with me now that I am an old-timer. I thought of that, I said, now I'm an old-timer, but these old-timers would be like Edith Bradbury, or John Bass, or the Winterfelds, you know, the Baba's great gems, you know, these workers for Baba and lovers. So when they would come to the center, you know, Elizabeth and Kitty would be, you know, all kind of getting ready and make sure their cabin was all right and comfortable. And I remember Elizabeth, I called her Auntie Boo, but Elizabeth would go in and check out the cabin that say, you know, John Bass was going to stay in. And she wanted him in the lake cabin because he donated it. So she thought, oh yes, he must be in it. He must be in that cabin. She wouldn't allow cabins to be named after the donor. She didn't say, if you give something, you give it to Baba, you give it freely, you don't get your name on So there's nothing at the center with, any of these names, but he did give it. And so that's where he stayed, right? And so she'd go in, check it out, make sure John was going to be comfortable, John had everything he needed, the right pillows and all this. I mean, people didn't realize, what Elizabeth and Kitty would do behind the scenes, but, to them it was like Baba was coming, I mean, they kept the center in readiness, right? Even after they knew Baba wasn't going to come anymore physically, they kept it as though he was going to come tomorrow. Why? Because he was, Yeah, he was. In their view, that's how it was, that he would come. So anyway, when they came, they would and then they would always be invited to a dinner or a lunch as soon as they got there, right? Special treatment. And, Evelina would, first it was Bessie, and then it was Evelina, would fix this wonderful meal for them and all that. I mean, they were treated like royalty, old timers. I'll never forget that. It was so touching. And how much pleased Baba, right? All these years the people gave to him, like so many of you, in his service and his cause and all that. And Kitty and Elizabeth just felt, these people need to be treated with special care. So wonderful. There was one exception to, and they all loved it, except for, there was one exception. I'm going to tell you about it because it's funny, and she's dead, so I so it doesn't matter anymore. She can't sue me. Actually, she would enjoy this as much as I hope you do. So this is about Anita Villard. Do you know who Anita Villard is? Everybody know, but she was French, or she wasn't French, but she acted like she was French. She was from, she's like Maria Callas. You thought Maria Callas was, no, she was born in New York. But so Anita was from New York, but she lived in France so long that she was so French. She was Frencher than the French. And she married this wonderful man named Roger, who was the sweetest man I think I've ever met. He was a banker, successful banker, and a great artist. He was really a renowned etcher. And so he was an amazing person, very sweet, kind, humble, sort of the flip side of Anita. and she was, this big personality. She's beautiful. Big personality. I mean, she was brought to Baba through Norina, of course. And so people called her Norina's protege, whatever. And then she traveled with Baba, the 30s, and she was always at the gatherings whenever Baba had a sahavas and all that. It's very close to Baba. And the most distinctive thing about Anita that I remember is that she always made Baba laugh. Baba particularly enjoyed somebody around him who would make him laugh, right? Anita made him laugh. So what I'm thinking of, I have many Anita stories, but I don't want to go on all night about Anita, but she arrived at the center, old timer, and it was rare, to come from France and so forth, and this was later, it wasn't so early, but Elizabeth was still there, and Kitty, and she came, and we were all kind of, like, oh, we have to make sure it's all just right, because Anita's a little, we knew, a little picky, and so the lantern, give her the lantern, the lantern right on the lake, oh, right, so beautiful, the lantern. One of the original buildings, and all that, so put them in the lantern. And so I picked them up at the airport or whatever and took them to the lantern. And I was really excited to show them and everything. And I took them in onto the porch. And Roger, he looked around and he looked at he said, oh, this is for us. Oh, it's too beautiful. Oh, I need to see the lake is there. It's right there. See that? You're so beautiful. And Anita came in the porch, looked at the kitchen, and she said, what is this? And I said, well, this is your kitchen, you know, you make the kitchen? I said, yes, it's the kitchen. But who is to make the food? I said, well, I didn't know how to break it to her. I said, ordinarily when people come, you know, they have a kitchen, they prepare their meals. And, oh, she said, no. We are eating Elizabeth and Kitty, no? And I said, well, I'm sure they'll invite you over. Now I'm thinking, oh boy. So I'm sure, I'm going to commit them, you know. I said, well, I'm sure they'll invite you over to yes, we'll be eating, but what about breakfast? And I said, but we put some breakfast food there for you in the refrigerator so you could have your breakfast tomorrow. You put it, oh, yeah, who is making breakfast? I said, you're making breakfast. And she said, this is what she said. She said, oh, Baba. Oh, Baba. I laughed so hard after that. I left after. I didn't laugh in her presence, but after I left, because I loved her so much. She was so much fun. She was so great. And always, both of them were so great. And she had a wonderful stay, actually, it turned out. And Elizabeth and Kitty had them over for every meal except breakfast. And Annie Boo even found someone to go over and help them with their breakfast. Just in case they couldn't figure out the coffee pot, you know, or what. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you about old timers because they were the greatest characters. And, you know, sometime we just have to have a talk about the old timers, right? Because John Bass. Oh, well, actually, this weekend I am going to talk about John. I forgot, I am. And one of my favorite stories about John. And then the Winterfelds, and then Miriam Florsheim, and, you know, all these people. I was blessed to know them. Edith Bradbury, oh my gosh, what a character she was. They were all kind of characters. But of course, in the 50s, if you weren't a character, you weren't going to be interested in Baba. You know? Baba, you had to be born with being kind of a little bit on the edge or fringe of things to be interested in the 50s and an Eastern master. So anyway, so they were all a little odd, but they were wonderful, wonderful people. What I felt like sharing tonight, since this is a Sahabas, is something about Sahabas and what Baba said about Sahabas. Now, here's the thing about this part. I have a photo of Baba with a quote on the back for every session I'm doing this weekend, right? To give to you all. Oh yeah. I have made copies for everybody. Plenty of them, except for tonight. Because the printer made a mistake and didn't make enough of this particular one. The printer only made a small number. Now, I think there are 19 of these. And I said, what to do? Just not tell people that I have them? Or choose 19 special people? Old timers, yeah. We'll do it by age, yeah. No, but then I thought, no, I'll just give them out and say, you know, whoever, you know, and then, you know, somebody, you can share, and then somebody can keep it. And in a room full of Baba lovers, it's going to be like, oh, no, you keep it. No, you have it. You know, like, so there's that. And actually, in the photo, which is on the beach, this is a wonderful photo, isn't it? This wonderful photo of Baba and his gesture, so beautiful. Anita is right next to Baba, you know, with her dark glasses on. Beryl Williams. Anybody know Beryl? Oh, what a giant she was. She's in charge of all the photographs. If you wanted a photograph of Mayor Baba, Beryl Williams. That's the only way. She'd bring the album. You know, there was no other way. And nobody else. She was the photo person. John Bass was the book person. She was the photo person. And so she'd come to, I remember coming into our living room and opening and showing us the new ones that had come from India that Mani had sent. And that was her role. Such a sweet, wonderful person. Loved Baba so much. Anyway, so I'm going to, there's Billy Eaton is in this picture. Many of you knew Billy, probably. Anyway, Joseph Harb is in this picture. So these are some old timers here. So somebody give these, just distribute them and then we'll see where they disappear to. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry about that, my printer, but still, as a compensation prize, here is one, a photo of Baba, that I am not going to have a session about. So it's like a bonus. And so I thought, well, because not everybody will get this one, I will give everybody this one tonight, and that way everybody goes home with something. You get a car, So I'm going to distribute these. Now, I love this photo of Baba. I'm sure you all know this photo too. This is in Baba's garden at his house in 1958, right? And Baba's with Adi standing next to him. And on the back, I have a quote, "My dear workers." It's an excerpt from that wonderful, wonderful message Baba gave in 1962 about working for him. And this excerpt is, I think, everything one needs to know about working for Meher Baba. And since all of you are Baba workers in your own way, I want to just say, people say, well, Baba workers are this or Baba workers are that. Actually, anyone who's a lover of Meher Baba is a Baba worker. Why do I say? Not my idea, it's Baba's idea. Because wherever we go, whatever we do, whatever job we have in the world, whatever our role, we are doing the work of his awakening. Yeah. Because that's why he chose us as his lovers, to help in the work of awakening. And so just by carrying Baba with us wherever we go, even if we don't say it out loud, we work for him. So by definition, we're his workers. Some, like, Angela may do Zoom, Baba Zoom, which is a great gift to the world, and others might, isn't it? Yeah. And the good news is that the pandemic taught us through Baba Zoom, the Baba Zoom is now for all time, because it connects people all over the world in a new way, builds community. And so the pandemic did that great service of revealing that there is a way to be more connected, including remote places people live by themselves with Baba. Now they can be with Baba people. This is a great, great thing. And it wasn't Angela's idea, it was Baba's idea, but she did it. So anyway, so there are workers that do things like that, and there are workers who do other things, so I understand that, but really everybody's a worker. So I don't know, I have gobs of these, so we'll see. So you can just, I think this is enough for this room, yeah. And if not, you can, I love having visual of Baba when we're talking about these things he said. So that's what gave me this idea. So the Sahabas quote that I put on the photo comes from a discourse Baba gave. He gave it on May 22nd, 1958, during the 58 Sahabas. And this is just one little excerpt. Baba says, and I'm sure you know these words, they're very familiar. Sahabas is the intimacy of give and take of love. I am the only beloved, and you are all my lovers. Or, I am the only lover, and you are all my beloveds. That's a beautiful quote. Yeah. Well, not to blow my horn, but I was there that day. It's just such a funny thing to think. all those years ago, but yeah, I was in the room. And I wasn't supposed to be in the room. So I thought I'd share with you that story because I would be embarrassed or even contrite, but I'm not. I should be, because I had to trick my mother to get there and disobey a directive from Baba. It wasn't directed at me, but it was a general directive, and I was 8 years old, so, I wasn't quite aware of all the ramifications of disobeying a directive of Baba's. I know now. Don't do that. But at that time, I just, what I was overwhelmed by, so this was May 22nd. I met Baba the day before, May 21st. So I was in love. I was mesmerized. That's all I can say. As soon as I met Baba, I couldn't take my eyes off it. So after one day, I just had to see him. And then I was told, no, you're going to school. And I told Mother, I said, well, no, I want to go to the center. I don't want to go to school. And she said, no, you see, and she said, you see the program in the morning, this was May 21st, and she's talking about the next day, May 22nd. She said, the program is in the barn, and Baba has arranged for someone to come and take care of the children while he's giving discourses and being with the adults in the barn, right? And they'll be in the playground. And so, but you live here, so, Elizabeth says, since you live here, you can go to school and you not be in the playground, so like that. Which, it made sense. So in other words, the children weren't allowed to go, is what she was saying, to this program. And I shouldn't feel excluded, but I did. And I couldn't talk her out of it. Well, of course, she said, this is what Baba is set up, and, and all that. And so, yeah. And she said, you'll have other opportunities. Yeah, you're in school all day. What opportunities? So I felt like, this is not fair. And I stewed over it. And that night, fortunately, in the middle of the night or early in the morning, my mother had a very deep experience of Baba, which is another story, which I won't tell now. But it was her unveiling, you see. She met Baba on the 19th of May, but she did not have that inner recognition right away. She liked Baba, she felt happy to be, but she didn't have that, what because this is how you feel. You know, because you've had this sense that you know him, you recognize him, right? And he gives us that. Or he doesn't. If he gives it to you, you know you have it. And it's a gift. We don't do anything. But he didn't give it to her. He gave it to me. 2 days later, I gave it, gave it to my sister on the 22nd. But, Baba's timing is such. But he didn't give it to her in his physical presence. He gave it to her in the middle of the night. This is how Baba is. It's not about being in his physical presence, obviously. It's about when the timing is right. And she woke up and she had this experience, which, as I say, is a story. So that was great for me because the next morning she got up in just a different state. She had to get to the center right away, right? She had to be with him right away. Now she knew. She couldn't wait. And so she said, get your breakfast, hurry up, get dressed, and then go to the bus stop, quick. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I said, Mom, I still was making my case. She said, no, you have to go. So reluctantly, I went with my brother and sister walking down the street, Happy House, the street to the bus stop. And I was so sad. And I sort of lagged behind my brother and sister. I knew the bus was coming in a second. I lagged behind, and I looked behind, and she had gotten in the car, and I kept looking, and the car didn't move. And I walked a little bit more, and I looked back, the car still hadn't moved. And I thought, all right, and I ran back to the car. Meanwhile, bus comes, picks up Wendy and John to go to school. They're gone. I get back to the door of the car. It turns out, I think Mother, it was a clutch thing, and she wasn't too good at it, and she flooded, I think, the car. She couldn't get it started, so she was trying to get it started, and just as I came up to the passenger door, it started up. And she looked up at me, and she said, what? I said, I want to go. And she said, well, huh? And then she had a dilemma. Drive me all the way to school, or go to the center to see Baba. So she made the choice. I'm going to go to the center, get in. So I got in, and that's how I got to the barn. That's the only reason I got to the barn. And so when we got there, I tried to be, and when I got inside, Mother had her own experience. Again, that's a different story. But we got inside. I tried to be inconspicuous, right? Because I wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm not sure Baba minded one way or the other, but I thought, I'm not going to make, I'm not going to show my face. So I sort of squinched down, like hiding, but staring at Baba nevertheless. So that's how I happened to be there when Baba gave this discourse on Sahabas. Now, honestly, I don't remember what was said. There is something I do remember, and I'm going to talk about that this weekend too. I remember one of the things that was said that in the barn, but not this. So, I was looking at Baba. I was 8 years old. I wasn't paying that close attention to the discourse, and Baba gave it. But later, when I read this, sometime later, I really, looking over everything Baba gave when I was there, I was interested, what did he give? And I read this thing, and one thing that really struck me about this discourse on Sahabas was that Baba, in the middle of it, asked a question. And I never thought of this question. I don't know if you have. He said, Baba said, ask, how do I participate in the Sahabas? Have you ever thought of that? How do I participate in the Sahabas? I never thought of that, right? And then Baba answered his own question. He said, I bow down to myself. I embrace myself. It is I who smile, who weep. Baba meets Baba. Baba consoles Baba. Baba pets Baba. Baba chides Baba. It's all Baba, Baba, Baba. Such is my experience of participation in the Sahabas. Isn't that wonderful? This is so wonderful. Have a little water, because I'm old. Oh, but looking good, but old. Yeah, you're looking good. But doesn't have to be special order. Just any old, any old wet stuff would be fine. There you go. That's great. Okay, just so that I don't lose my voice in the middle of talking about Baba. Thank you. Thank you. You can cut this part out of the video, or I don't know, maybe it's the best part. I don't know. Thank you. Thank you. It shows that I don't care what impression I make. So reading that, some things came to my mind, as probably come to you, and these things came to my mind. One is that Baba is underscoring what we all know that he says many times, but he wants us to remember all the time. I alone am real. All else is zero. I alone am real. Now, if we remember that, what freedom there is, right? And then Baba also says, I'm nearer to you than your own breath. You know, Baba says that. And here he's also going a little further and saying, not only am I nearer to you than your own breath, I am you. I am you. So Baba is saying, you know, he's not a remote deity of some sort, or avatar somewhere doing something, and then you summon him or you petition him and all that. Maybe you do some ritual and he, you know, not like that. Baba is not like that. Baba is here, now, as much as he is anywhere. Nowhere else. And I think that's one thing Baba was trying to emphasize here, to remember that. As Elizabeth always used to say, and I used to love when she'd say this, she'd say, you know, Baba is in the now. Baba is in the now. Right? And the other thing I love about what Baba's saying here is, he's saying, you all are equidistant from me. Now, it's true, there are people, you know, Mandali people and so forth, you know, who maybe, because of whatever work, whatever connection, maybe they're more aware that Baba is in them or in us. So there is an awareness, and there are many people who don't have that awareness in the world, you know, most people. But that doesn't matter about their nearness or farness. There's nothing to do with it. Some people very close to Baba who then forgot about Baba or said, no more with Baba. They're as close to Baba as Erich. They're not farther away from Baba. How could that be? They are Baba. According to Baba, not to me. I don't know. They're Baba. They're just as much Baba. Quentin Todd is just as much Baba as I am. You know? And Baba wants us to remember that. You know, we don't know. And Baba would often say this when someone would you know, make some comment, you know, about one of the Mandali or something, you know, Gustaji usually. Because Gustaji irritated people because he was very funny, but, you know, because he was given the work of doing nothing, which, you know, is not easy. Really, you're there with Bob and they're all busy, they all have their duties, and you're told, you have no duties. Nobody can give you a duty. You do nothing. So, you know, he would sit there. And he was silent on top of it. Baba said he had to be silent. What was he silent for? 25 years he was silent. And he was funny in his silence, Gustav. He was very funny because he would act out the stories, you know. Baba acted out stories too, but Gustav, when he acted out, would really go full bore. You know, he'd do all the, he'd jump around, and it was very, very funny, and people loved it. Baba loved it. But I'm saying he didn't do anything, and so of course the other Mandali like, well, wait a minute, what's this guy? You know, I mean, and you know, Bal used to tell this great moment when, you know, one day Baba had him, you know, doing some important work, you know, writing a letter or something, you know. We all think we have such important work. Anyway, so Bal was doing this important work for Baba. Baba told him to. And then Baba called him back to Mandal and said, you know, Gustaji over here needs, you know, such and such, you know, maybe he needs some water or something. All right, Baba. He goes and gets it, brings it. And this goes on. You know, I won't belabor it, but you get the idea. And then he calls him back in and gets him some food. Or he calls him back. And finally, Baba just says, what is it, Baba? I mean, this man, he's doing nothing. I'm trying to finish this work you gave me, you know, important work, and he's doing nothing. So why is it? And Baba said, you have no idea. Gustaji sitting here doing nothing is a greater work than all of you doing what you're doing. Papa said, you have no idea, right? So that's what I mean. We don't have any idea. We think, oh, so-and-so, you know, is this or that. And no, Baba says you have never presume you know the work that someone is doing for Baba. Yeah, it could be such a great thing, but we don't know. Only Baba knows. And finally, it's occurred to me that in this beautiful thing Baba gave, he's saying, no one is more Baba or less Baba. It's another way of saying what I've been saying. But I mean, I think that's an important lesson for me in my life to remember, because I grew up with giants, you know. People whose discipleship was, you know, beyond imagination, you know, just every day of my life I think about what they gave me just by being around them. And Pindu, being with him, he was my close friend among the Mandali, I have to say. And he didn't, you know, he felt useless, Pindu, because he didn't have a role anymore. He was crippled, and his tongue in the accident was damaged, and he couldn't speak properly and all that. But I tell you what, for me, I learned more about Baba and who he is and his ways and his fragrance sitting with Pindu while he read the paper and occasionally would say something about Baba or whatever. That time sitting there was when I really came to know Baba in a different way, a deeper way. That's all I can say. So no one is more or less Baba, but boy, these giants make you feel like, boy, they are transparent to Baba. They are. But everyone is as much Baba as anyone else, is the point. And for me, that's a great lesson, which I don't always remember, but I see people, and they, you know, what are they doing? Why are they acting that way and all that? But how am I to know? You know? I don't know. All I have to do is remember, Baba says that he is in them. He is them. Ultimately, they aren't anything but him. So all those things I see and say, oh, what is this, what is that? That isn't real. So what am I stewing about? Baba says, I tell you all with my divine authority that you and I are not we, but one. You unconsciously feel my avatarhood within you. I consciously feel in you what each of you feel. Thus, every one of us is Avatar, in the sense that everyone and everything is everyone and everything at the same time and for all time. So, what pleases Baba? I think that what pleases Baba is to treat everyone as he is, as he's there. That's Baba. As much as we can. I mean, we're human, limited. Ignorance is there and all that. I'm not saying we can do that easily, but Dr. Gohair could do it. You know how she was? Many of you probably met Gohair, knew her. I hope some of you may remember. Yeah, remember? Yeah. So she, the patients would come, all that. After Baba dropped the body, she wanted to give it all up. She threw away a lot of her, doctor's stuff. And because, now not caring for Baba, what is there? And Mandali people persuaded her, no, Baba would want you to, keep doing it, doing what you did with him, do it. So she did, and she found, when the patients come, she found herself treating Baba all over again. Yeah. Because who is that comes in the door? And if you saw Gohair at the clinic doing that, you could feel it. The compassion, the humility, the sweetness with which she treated each person. You can imagine this is how she treated him. So it can be done. It can be done. I guess maybe in the next lifetime, because the lessons that I feel like I'm beginning to see in Baba, I just really want to live more and more, but it's so challenging and to put yourself aside. But one thing that I remember growing up from Elizabeth, when someone would criticize, a Baba lover's in the community's approach or something they were doing, right? Like that. And with Margaret visiting, there was always plenty of, because she knew it bugged Elizabeth, and so she loved to poke her, and she'd say, well, look at so-and-so. And, but, there were other times that it came up in Delruba, and Kitty might, oh yes, why are they just... So it would come up, Mother might say something, it was natural, because these were all people who were new to us, and, they were doing all these strange things, and who knew what they were, really doing, and all that, and there were, some, the old-timers, worried about, well, this doesn't represent Baba well, and so forth and so on. Now, Elizabeth was not unconcerned with how people represented Baba, but what she would say when this came up, she would say this. She would say, well, all I can say is, that's between them and Baba. So that's all I can say. And then she would say to Kitty and Mother, if they said this and this about somebody living in the community, Baba person, she'd say, well, I can't say what people do in their own lives. I can only say what they do at the center, because that's what Baba gave me. And she stuck to that, right? And that's true wisdom. And sometimes when someone would criticize the behavior going on in the community, Elizabeth would say, well, she didn't like controversy. She would not tolerate any gossip or backbiting. It just could not be heard in Delruba. She just didn't like it. So if somebody said something negative about somebody, she would, let them say it, and then she would say, well, I think that's enough now. And then she'd say, if Baba loves them, then so must we. How blessed I was to be around her, I tell you. So, when people started coming in bigger numbers, you know, not just the old timers, but all the new ones, you know, in my generation. I mean, I was not part of that generation in a way because I had grown up with Baba. So, but the people who were coming that are in my generation, you know, were full of fire for Baba. Right? Baba had somehow lit that spark. As he told the Mandali he would, he did, and there they were. And they were showing up at the gate, suddenly, you know. And they'd seen a poster at Woodstock or in the bookstore, don't worry, be happy. And then they'd show up. Many of them hadn't read a word. They'd show up. They recognized him. And they'd travel all that distance. Sometimes they didn't have any money, and they'd show up, and Elizabeth had to, you know, pay for their cabin, because you know what? Everybody had to pay for their cabin. It was $3 a night at that day. And only because it was, she felt that, you know, Baba wanted people to give something, but she didn't want it to be much, so that anybody could afford it. And I'll just say parenthetically, while I was on the board for 23 years, most of the time with her, she and I fought off raising those cabin rates. Every board meeting. And because it was Elizabeth on my side, we always won. 10 votes, Elizabeth, and then there are 3 other people, they get a vote. No, I mean, she had the final word. Because Baba said she had to. It wasn't her idea. Baba said that what Elizabeth says she wants at my center is what I want. That's what he said. So, and the rate stayed at $3 and $3. And then after her time, of course, it had to go up. I'm not backbiting the board, but I think even when I was on the board after that, I still tried to keep it down, because it's not, it should be something people, but if they couldn't pay, and this is still true today, then someone would. And Elizabeth in those days, you know, because she paid for everything. At the end of the year, if there was a deficit, you know, running the center, because there was very few donations or anything. So if there's a deficit of something, she'd just write a check. And some years she didn't have it because people thought she was rich. She wasn't. She had a trust from her father, limited income. She couldn't do anything about getting more. It ran out. And you know what she used to say about money? Left hand, right hand. Comes in, goes out. All for Baba. When she sold her father's foundry after her father died, all for Baba. Built Baba's house. $25,000 in those days was like $250,000 today, right? Built Baba's house. It came in, went out. She didn't care. It was all for Baba. Whatever Baba, you know. So she would write the check. If she didn't have it, she'd borrow it from, one year, Ruth White. Ruth White wrote the check for the taxes. Elizabeth didn't have it. And then she paid Ruth back when she sold some land. She would sell off other land, cross the highway and so forth. Say, why did she sell that? We wish we still had that land. Well, you try paying the bills without any income, you know? So in other words, I'm just saying, you know, she gave it all for Baba. She gave it all for Baba. And when people came in those days, who were new to us, you know, they'd come in the center, and I was astounded. I was a young person, you know, I guess a teenager. I was astounded that I would meet these people and they were full of love. They seemed to really know Baba and love Baba. In essence, they were saying, you know, I love Meher Baba. Now tell me about him. Really, that was kind of the message. I love Meher Baba. Now tell me about him. What did he do? Who is he? Really? That was really how it was. So Baba had already done the real thing, and you know, we were there just to. And so when I went to Elizabeth one day, or Auntie Boo, I called her. I said, you know, Auntie Boo, you know, the new people are coming, and they say they find Baba here at the center. I said, you know, how is that possible? They don't know much about Baba, and so how do they? And she said, well, she said, first, let me say, they may be new to us, but they're not new to Baba. And she said, and then you see, they find him here because they bring him here in their hearts. That's why they find him here. Which is true. Yeah, it's true. And then I'll just end with the youth solace because it brought full circle to me. Just as you were saying earlier about the new generation, you were saying earlier, the new generation. Well, being with them this summer brought home to me that Baba's way ahead of us. Oh, what's going to happen? All the, you know, the old timers die or the Mandli are gone, and you know, as though somehow or another Baba was dependent on that, right? To do his work. Well, you know, it's a natural feeling. I used to think when Elizabeth and Kitty go, what is the center going to be? Who would want to go there? Well, I mean, I did when I was growing up. I couldn't imagine it. Or Mandli Hall without Erich. How's that possible? But you know what? People go to Mandli Hall now, sit there, and Baba gives them so much. Or he doesn't. Right? It's true when Erich was there. Some would come and they didn't. So it isn't dependent on anything except what he does. And he does or he doesn't. Depends on the timing, depends on where the person is, all that. So when the Youth Sahalas idea came up years ago, there were many who didn't want it. Board members, particularly. Staff. Oh, my God. Oh, I know, the center's not for that, you know. I said, well, wait a minute. Baba had a Sahabas at the center more than once. Well, I don't know, it's for retreat now. That was then, as a retreat. I said, no. Well, anyway, so we had these back and forths. Fortunately, most of the board, you know, some reluctantly said, yeah, let's try it. You know, shutting down the center for a time just for that, I don't know, not a good idea, but let's experiment. You know, so we talked them into it. Mother was the advocate. And she was president of the center then, so she had a lot of clout, although not like Elizabeth. So they didn't give her a pass on a lot of things, but she was convinced this is what Baba wanted. And what Baba did to turn the key, in my opinion, Elizabeth always used that expression because Baba used it. Baba says, I will turn the key. So it seems impossible. It's not going to happen. People are opposed. And then Baba goes like this. And what turned the key was Mani, Baba's sister Mani. She thought it was a wonderful idea. You know how she loved young people. So she was thrilled that this would be there. And she wrote to Mother and she said, oh, this is so wonderful. What a great idea. And she said, and I will send a Baba gift for each young person who comes. And she did. Yeah, for years. So we did it. Christopher and I were there at the beginning. We were on the committee, and we were a little curmudgeon-y about it because we wanted more focus on Baba, explicitly. Others wanted it to be more free-form. The free-form people were actually right in the long run, in the deepest sense, because Linda and Buzz and others who saw that it should be very open to whatever the young people were experiencing, and that they should take the leadership and so forth. They had worked with young people a lot. They knew. But Christopher and I, we recognized that. We were in favor of that, but we wanted some things focused so that they would understand something of why they were there and so forth. So we kind of melded the two. I came up with the barn idea, and at the end to have this time in the barn to take Baba's darshan, get prasad, and just experience Baba, as a kind of a cumulative experience of being there. It turned out the kids loved that. People thought, oh, they're not, kids are not going to want to do that. Oh, no. Now they call it barn. It's not, we're going to the barn. It's, oh, barn. And barn has a very special meaning for these young people. It's where they deeply, deeply connect. They deeply connect to each other. And so part of what I'm sharing with you is that when I'm with them at the youth office, and there were we haven't gone much for reasons I won't get into, but we did go this past summer. And Christopher and I. And it really hit home to me that, first of all, this youth Sahavas for 30 years now has shaped Baba's next generation. It is the only vehicle for that, but it's a very powerful one. Hundreds and hundreds of people, now middle-aged people, but they have been deeply connected to each other and to Baba. And what I'm saying is that is inseparable, right? They, unlike maybe past experiences, they are much more connected to Baba through each other, yes. Right? And one of the reasons that they don't really get it with the old style Baba meetings and Baba, it's just not, that's not how they've connected, right? And they become friends, they become connected in a deep way. And even if they don't see each other during the year, when they get back together, it's like they're just inwardly connected. And then they want to be workers. We had 70-some workers there this summer and 60-some kids. Could have had 100 workers, because they all want to come back. So it's like 2 Sahavases in one. And those workers, boy, they give 1,000% to these kids. That is Baba. Oh my God, how Baba would be pleased with that. This wholehearted service, but they give it because they get so much experience of Baba by being there. So Baba created the youth Sahavas before we even thought of it, and it unfolded just as he, planned. And it's like I look back now and I say, this is how he is. He's always ahead of us, and we think we've come up with something. We haven't come up with anything, right? So anyway, that's God's truth. So 30 years of this extraordinary work, and these young people are always free there to form their own connections with each other and with Baba. No one tells them how to do it. No one says, this is Baba, this is not Baba. Oh, this is what Baba would want. This is not what Baba would want. You're tempted. You are, because, they're kids. But in discussion groups and sharing, like I give talks, so they get some of that. But I'm always careful not to tell them, this is Baba. I can say, this is what I have gathered, like Eric used to say. I can say, this is my experience. But I also say, but you have your own. Baba's just as much in you as he is in me. They get that. See, they don't have to be told that. They say, yeah, that's right, yeah. I mean, it's like, sure. They don't think that there's a Baba or different versions. They think there is their Baba. That's what they think. Each one has their Baba. And you know what? They don't judge the other one for having a different Baba. I've seen it. So when we had a discussion group about who is your Baba, Christopher and I, because we were really interested to see what they would say. And, we started out, we said, think of one word that describes your Baba. I don't know what I thought they would do. I thought maybe they would say, it's a kind of awkward setting, and, they're young, and some as young as 14. They might say love, compassion, kids, they didn't. They didn't. Creativity, imagination, doubt. Oh my God. And that, all like around the world. Finally, towards the end, at the end of the circle, one kid piped up and said, love. And everybody looked at the kid and went, duh. Who is your Baba? And they really thought about it, and they really said, and then they would explain it as best they could, It's like, they are forming their inner Baba. And I told them, I said, I feel more comfortable with you than I do with almost any other gathering, because I'm a Baba anarchist. I just don't feel like there's a Baba, or should be. And who is to say, right? I mean, who's to say, they're doing this, they're doing that, and I learned that from Elizabeth, of course. So anyway, so that's what I've learned from the Youth Sahabas, and they taught me a lot more than I'm sure I gave them. They come from all over the world. We had someone from Argentina, someone from Italy, someone from Germany, someone from Mexico, and they all revealed to me that Baba is so alive and so hard at work in these people, young people. And Baba still gives sahabas, is what I'm saying. Maybe now more than he ever did. It's like when Baba dropped the body, physical body, Elizabeth always said, remember, I'd say drop the body, she said, oh, you mean he dropped the physical body? I said, yes, Andrew, that's what I mean. Yes, she said, that's right. So when he dropped the physical body, and her minister came to console her, I happened to be there. It was his job, natural, visit his parishioner, and she lost someone close to her. It's a nice, sweet thing. So he came, he sat there, Dr. DeBose, sweetheart. And he said, Mrs. Patterson, I heard about, Mayor Baba's passing, and I know this is difficult for you, and I know how you must miss him. And you know what? Without missing a beat, she looked up as though she was startled, and she said, she said, oh no, you see, he's so much more available now. And that's how I felt about the Youth Sahabas. He's so much more available now. He's free, and they're free to find him. Sahabas is the intimacy of give and take of love. I am the only beloved, and you are all my lovers. Or I am the only lover, and you are all my beloveds. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.